So once again, I'm highlighting new fragrances that I've gotten my hands and nose on, and I want you guys to know about these fragrances. Some of the fragrances today in this video were featured in my recent Scent Club mystery box. So if you've got the kit, you probably know the fragrances I'm going to talk to you about. Not all of them, some of them, but these are really great fragrances that I want you guys to know about. Potentially go out and find them and get your hands and nose on them. So if you want to find out about new fragrances that I'm enjoying lately, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's Sebastian. We're talking about new fragrances, new houses on the channel today. I do one of these videos every so often, and I'm highlighting these brands. There's 12 of them here. In case you haven't gotten your nose on the fragrances of these houses, you definitely should get your nose on these houses because I recommend their fragrances. So as I said, also, if you got your hands on a mystery box, you probably have seen some of the fragrance samples in the kit. And I'm just going to reiterate those fragrances today. They are pretty brand new to me and to a lot of the world, and definitely worth checking out the fragrances from these houses. There's going to be discount codes for some of the brands as well that I will have in the info box. So if anything sounds great to you, you can go ahead and take advantage of those discount codes as well. We're going to start off with the first fragrance here. It's from a house called NOEME. It's SOMA, this one right here. So over the weekend on Sunday, I did a video on this house. I featured 8 of their fragrances in one video. And in that video, I discussed this one as being my favorite from the house. It's a given that I like this one because it's one of those fragrances that kind of hints at things like Wajan, Angel's Share, and things like that. And for me, this does have that kind of a effect or experience, but for me also I get some cherries with this one, like a cherry-like vibe. Just think about Wajan or Angel's Share with kind of a cherry-like vibe. For me, this is all about Tonka, vanilla, it's boozy with rum, there's caramel, stickiness, powderiness from Heliotrope, some light leatheriness when it's drying down, amber, a bit of cacao in there as well. Created by Amélie Bourgeois, whose fragrances are really super amazing. I really like this perfumer, and she did an amazing job with SOMA. If you haven't got your nose on this one, please do. In that video, I also discussed a discount code for all the fragrances that I discussed for NOEME, 25% off for a limited time of all of the fragrances with free shipping from France. It's a great time to take advantage of the fragrances from this house. So NOEME's SOMA is the first fragrance I'm talking about. Do let me know if you're a fan of that house or if you've, seen the brand but haven't been able to get your nose on them. There are definitely some great ones in that house I highly recommend, especially SOMA. But moving on to one of the fragrances that was featured in Scent Club, it's OHTOP's Green Flannel. So it's basically paying tribute to one of my favorite classic men's fragrances of the 70s called Gray Flannel. And it's very, very modernized and made extremely fresh. In the end, it's still utilizing violet leaves and violets in the notes, but this is going in a different direction. It doesn't smell old, classic, one of those older men's fragrances. It does smell very modern, and the ozonic notes that are in here from the violet leaves does create a very fresh experience. In addition to those notes of violet and violet leaves, you've also got Tonka beans again here, like the last fragrance, but totally different fragrances. You've got Ambroxan to give you that musky, ambery, woody, powdery, lightly aquatic touch, which also creates a bit of a powdery effect. And then, of course, Galbanum was also present in Gray Flannel. It's here as well, but just to give it a little accentuation, not necessarily overwhelming like the previous version, Gray Flannel, which I'm a huge fan of. I discovered through my dad. Here, I like this fragrance because they're paying tribute to that fragrance, and it's sort of kind of similar to it, not necessarily identical, but a great fragrance. I think this will be perfect for spring, summer, autumn wear. It's very fresh and ozonic. Definitely a great one. Look into the info box. We do have a discount code for that. I think you might check that out, especially since that was also featured in Mystery Box. Do let me know if you were able to pick up a mystery box. I do want to say we might be dropping about 15 more. We're still waiting for everyone to receive theirs, and then we'll decide if we can, drop some more. So stay on guard. We're not taking requests. Last time we did that, people changed their mind and it made major trouble. Just stay on guard on the website. One they'll be available and they will sell out really quickly. So moving on to a brand spanking new house I haven't spoken about at all on the channel. This is Les Fleurs de GOLFE and it's Sugar Oud, this one right here. Are you guys familiar with this house? It's a 50 ml bottle. It's they come in small bottles, and for me, this is, I wouldn't say this is like Xerjoff. I'm saying they're kind of fragrances like those brands that do these kind of fruity oud fragrances, and it's definitely kind of like that for sure. But in the end, uber sweet tart fruitiness. They mentioned there's a passion fruit in this and oud wood. So for me, the oud wood does have a light Middle Eastern like effect for me, and then also, you know, it provides a light funk, but for me, I feel like this is more like an accord, you know, like a Western oud effect in fragrances for the Western markets. Doesn't act like much like a Middle Eastern oud for me, but I am getting some funk in there, so perhaps they've thrown in some notes and things like that. But for me, I also get fruity notes in addition to the passion fruit, which is what they mentioned here. I get sugary notes, and then I get a little bit of saffron / leather-like experience in this. They only mention passion fruit and oud wood for notes, but I am picking up these kind of notes when I experience this one. There's definitely this juicy sweet tartness from the fruits, but contrasted with a dry, dusty wood shavings like oud experience in this. And because of these two combinations, it gives me a little bit of saffron, perhaps a bit of amber in there. I mean, there might even be things like Ambroxan and things like that. But I think this is really great. It wears great on me. I like the combination. It's definitely very Middle Eastern-esque, and definitely want to dig into this house a little further. But this is Les Fleurs de GOLFE, and it's Sugar Oud. Do let me know if you've gotten your nose on that brand. I do want to find out. Moving on to a house called TOBBA Parfums. This is Indolence, this one right here. Who's familiar with this house? I actually discovered this house last year at Petit Fragranza in Florence. I'm getting mixed up with the two different cities of the two different shows. Milan is where they do Essence, and Florence is where they do Petit Fragranza. You know, instantly I thought this is a hipster-like brand, and I did enjoy the fragrances from the house. The fragrances, there's I think 6 or maybe 7, I can't remember exactly, which I'm going to be doing a video on the house very soon. Stay tuned for that. And one of the fragrances from that collection is Indolence, and it's the one of the ones that I really enjoyed from this house. Given the fact that it has patchouli, one of my favorite notes, it does act sexy in this fragrance and definitely comes alive on skin. For me, this also has a bit of sweatiness, maybe lightly, because it has Caraway. Caraway versus Cumin, they're kind of sort of similar, but they're not. So it doesn't have that major Cumin-like effect like it normally does if you have Cumin, but there's a little bit of a sweaty funk in this when you're wearing it. But in addition to these notes, there's Mate Absolute, Ambroxan, Bergamot, Cashmeran, and soft flowers. So it's really great wear. It kind of comes off green, earthy, a bit grassy because that Mate Absolute against the patchouli and the Caraway together, really beautiful combination. It's sexy, it's earthy, it's woody. There's that tea in here, the tea-like vibe from the Mate, which produces the kind of grassiness. And then of course all the musky notes in here like the Ambroxan and Cashmeran as well. Really wonderful offering from this house. Definitely one of my favorites, although there might be a few others that might beat this one. I'm featuring this one because it might be the most accessible, perhaps, because a lot of viewers here do enjoy patchouli. Maybe you don't, but a lot of you do, I know. And I wanted to highlight this one because it does have that patchouli. So this is Indolence from the house of TOBBA Parfums. Let me know if you're familiar with that house. Please put a comment down below so I can find out. They are from Hong Kong, I believe. All right, up next, I've got a house from Saudi Arabia, IBRAHIM FUHAID, and it's ORRISILLA, this one right here. Those of you that are fans of Iris Orris must get your nose on this one. It's super, super special, and it's an overdose of Orris and powdery notes. It features Orris in the top notes, heart notes, and base notes. Features amber in the heart notes and base notes. He features patchouli. Also vanilla in the heart notes and base notes. There's also mimosa to accentuate and intensify the powdery effect. There's actually a powder note, patchouli, cacao, cedar, red berries. Oh man. Like I said, if you are a fan of Iris Orris and fragrances, this is a must get your nose on. It's absolutely special, really long lasting and intense. an amazing smell. The sweetness in here contrasted with that kind of vegetal Orris note is so amazing that you can experience that light vegetal touch of the Orris plus the sweetness, and the combo is quite intoxicating. This is a really special fragrance. I hope you guys get to try it out. And Iris Orris was not necessarily one of my favorite notes quite a while ago, but it's become more and more a favorite of mine. And again, this is one of a kind Iris Orris fragrance. This is ORRISILLA from the house of IBRAHIM FUHAID. Let me know if you guys are familiar with that house from Saudi Arabia. As I said, love that fragrance. It smells so amazing. And then also another fragrance from the Middle East, a house called JAZEERA. This is Patchouli, this one right here. Oh man, this is one of the best patchouli fragrances I've put my nose on. This is created by Olivier Cresp for this house, and this house has really great fragrances, and all the fragrances, or most of the fragrances, are created by very well-known perfumers or master perfumers. To me, this is such a special fragrance, and I'm kind of savoring it because I absolutely love the way it smells. It's featuring notes of patchouli, honey, cumin, praline, sandalwood, musk, nutmeg, and vanilla. For me, it reminds me of a cross between Mugler's Angel, with which Olivier Cresp created, with L'Instant de Guerlain Pour Homme Eau Extrême, the original fragrance in the brown rimmed bottles. That was available until they made all the fragrances in the Guerlain men's collection all uniform. If you like the idea of those two fragrances, you're gonna really love this one. It's so super amazing. One of the best patchouli fragrances I've put my nose on as of late, and absolutely love it. And I'm a big fan of Angel for Women, the classic, the original vintage, and then also a huge fan of L'Instant de Guerlain Pour Homme Eau Extrême. It's because it's one of the fragrances that got me into doing videos on YouTube, because I was obsessed with that fragrance when I first discovered it. And I like the fact that this fragrance here, JAZEERA's Patchouli, reminds me of those two fragrances. So this is JAZEERA Patchouli. Let me know if you've gotten your nose on that one. But moving on to a house called Gleam, a brand new house I discovered over at TFWA in Cannes, one of the shows that I've gone to. And this is Espresso Please. If you like the idea of espresso coffee, you must get your nose on this one. This is super amazing. It's such a beautiful gourmand with coffee, hazelnuts, dark chocolate, tonka beans, musk. Just imagine you went into a, like a Starbucks or a Pete's Coffee or something like that, or any one of those, cafes, and you're ordering a mocha, but there's a bit of a nuttiness thrown in there, some kind of light bitterness that's thrown in there from the tonka, made into this really delicious, super amazing, very decadent drink, because that's what this really reminds me of. It's coffee, hazelnuts, dark chocolate together. The combination is super delicious, super intoxicating, and I think this is going to be a hit once it hits, the US shelves. Anyway, Gleam's Espresso Please. Check it out if you don't know about that one. I highly recommend it. It's a great, delicious gourmand. And speaking of coffee, we have another fragrance that was featured in Scent Club Mystery Box 2. This is BINET-PAPILLON number 21, also known as Magnolia Underground. This is also really, really great. I wonder if you guys put your nose on this one and what your thoughts are. Let me know. Put a comment down below. This is a fusion of magnolias with musk, coffee, and milk. So basically, these are the notes. I personally get milky, milkiness from magnolia as a note, because there's a lot of white flowers do create this kind of milkiness, so there's that effect in there already, and they've thrown in milk to kind of accentuate and add more creamy milkiness to the fragrance, but lots of musk. It's a very musky fragrance, and it's all that creaminess from the magnolia plus the coffee in here, and the coffee in here a bit different than Gleam's Espresso Please. This one's more granular experience against the creaminess of the magnolia and the milk and that kind of ethereal airiness of the musk that's in here. Really, really great fragrance. Hopefully those of you that got the kit was able to sample this one, because I highly, highly recommend it as one of their best, and it's definitely one of their latest fragrances. So this is Magnolia Underground. That's their other name, but it's number 21. And as you can see, 21 is written right here by BINET-PAPILLON. I recently uploaded a shorts video on my shorts section of the channel of how one of my bottles that I got from their store last September was put together. So if you guys are curious to learn a little bit more about the house, go check out that video. Moving on to the house of Voskanyan Parfums. This is Histoire d'un Rose, this one right here, also featured in Scent Club Mystery Box. And again, I wanted to highlight these brands as I haven't spoken too much about these brands. And of course, there's other brands that were not featured in the Mystery Box number 2. And this is a house I discovered last year as well. And hopefully I'll be able to do a video on the house, the entire house overview very soon. Stay tuned for that video. But this is a rose in your face. It's a rose come alive, and it's damask rose. It's juicy, it's jammy, it's the queen rose in your face. Really, really full, ripe, intense, smelly rose. But in addition to the damask rose, there's oak moss here, patchouli, citron, ambergris, bergamot, lime, angelica root, musk, tangerine, ginger, lavender, and vetiver. For me, it acts like a chypre, a rose chypre, but in the most jammy way. This rose is just the most ripe and most flavorful in the way you smell fragrances. Man, it's magical though. If you really love roses, you must get your nose on this fragrance because it's super, super special, especially for the rose lover. It's amazing. So this is Histoire d'un Rose from the house of Voskanyan Parfums. Let me know if you've discovered that house. Put a comment down below so I can find out. All right, next fragrance, going to the house of Hunk. This is Mechanic. Now, one of the fragrances from this house was featured in Mystery Box. That one was called Boxer, but I'm highlighting Mechanic. It's one of my favorites from the house. Boxer, unfortunately, is a bit challenging. I know it'll find its audience or fans, but for me, I really enjoy Mechanic. I also enjoy Gardener, and I also enjoy Barman and Carpenter. Those are my favorites, but Boxer's definitely, for me, it's a different take on a fragrance like what's it called from Etat Libre d'Orange, Secretions Magnifique. But Mechanic here is that kind of greasy, oily, kind of a mechanic smell and all the notes that go in it to create an essence like this. There was a fragrance by the House of Tower Perfumes. It's actually the Towerville line, a special release called Hyacinth and a Mechanic. Just imagine removing the hyacinth out of that fragrance and leaving only the mechanic part, and that's what you get with this one. So definitely very oily, greasy. Just imagine going into a mechanic shop and you're smelling those essences or smells that are, you know, smells that are associated with all the stuff that the mechanic does. But in the end, it's red thyme, petitgrain, violet, ambroxan, ISOE super, patchouli, styrax, tobacco. There's a bit of smokiness in here, leathery touches, but lots of greasy oiliness, and just like how a mechanic shop would smell. Anyway, Hunk's Mechanic is definitely one I'm highlighting for you today. This next one was also featured. You should be able to, I haven't really reported, I should go back to the Hunk fragrances. I haven't really reported on of how you can buy the fragrances, but I'm going to report on it very, very soon. You should be able to buy that locally in the USA, also Boxer and all the rest of the fragrances from Hunk. But the next fragrance is another fragrance that was featured in Scent Club Mystery Box 2. It's Plume Impressions Royal Bourbon. Royal Bourbon, super delicious boozy fragrance with a holiday vibe. Now, I did a full video on the line of Plume Impression some time ago with Joe, but Royal Bourbon was not available. It is now finally available at So Avant-Garde, and I have it linked in the info box, and there is a 20% off discount code there as well if you've been eyeing this fragrance. It's a perfect holiday fragrance. Boozy, cinnamony, warm, spicy, tobacco, all of these notes. Amazing, amazing. Also, the sticky caramelly touches with the vanilla are in here as well. Definitely top-notch release. So this is Plume Impressions Royal Bourbon, also in the Scent Club kit. Again, you can get that 20% off. There's a link in the info box. And the last fragrance I'm talking about is from the house of Orme. It's Tableau Parisien. I'd like to dig into this house further. Really enjoy their bottles and the caps, as you can see. And this fragrance, even though it starts off on the feminine side, it's utilizing tuberose. The dry down is so warm and spicy, tobacco-ish. So I like that contrast of the tuberose that's in here with its all warm, spicy, you know, ambery, resinous dry down with the tobacco. But in the end, it features tuberose, mixed spices, tonka beans, tobacco, vanilla, benzoin, mandarin, fresh ginger, basil, petitgrain, rose, and heliotrope. So there's floral touches in here, and the tuberose is definitely king when you first spray it. But this is not about tuberose. The tuberose, to me, does maybe lightly hint at something like Frederick Mall's carnal flower, but for me it doesn't stay like that because it does warm up and it does get tobacco-ish, it does get ambery, and it definitely changes pace and becomes super, super delicious, warm and spicy when it's drying down. So this is a really great fragrance. The latest from this house, it's Tableau Parisien from the house of Orme, I should say. And that is the last fragrance. And there is a discount code on that fragrance as well. I have them all linked in the info box. You can buy that fragrance locally or in the States with a great discount code. And that's basically all the fragrances I'm talking about today here. Some of them were featured in Scent Club Mystery Box, some of them not. Some of them I'm going to do videos on the channel. Stay tuned for those. Some probably in the future, but really awesome fragrances that I'm highlighting for you guys. Brand spanking new from various houses. New for me, maybe new for you also. Maybe some of you have discovered these already. If you did, do let me know. Put a comment down below so I can find out. Either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.